Rob?
Hello everyone, welcome to Rob's Rogues, and I'm laughing here. I am so far away from the review table to try and get this all in frame. Of course, you're taking a look at the DC Comics Multiverse Justice League Batmobile from Mattel. Now, at the time that you are seeing this Batmobile here, I had bought the $9.99 figure version of the Batmobile, the $20 version. And then literally 2 days after I had bought that first Batmobile, I was made aware of that Mattel was doing a multiverse version of the Justice League Batmobile that you see here, a cheaper version than the $240 remote control version. Now, for a brief moment, I did think, boy, that would be really cool to get the remote control version. But being a collector, what is this thing going to do? It's going to sit on my shelf with my other figures and Batman standing beside it. I'm probably not going to use and do a lot of the stuff that you could do with the RC car. Even though that would be really cool, practically and money-wise, this was the cheaper option to go with. So thank you to my lovely wife for getting this for me. Thank you very much, honey. Thank you, thank you. This thing is so massive. I can't even get it all in the frame here. You can kind of see that side of the box. To try and show you the rest of this box is going to be a little tricky. It's hard to rock around, it's tricky. So there is the back panel of the box. And try and do this. So there we go. That's not too bad. You can kind of see the other figures that are in this wave. Superman, Tactical Suit Batman, The Flash, Aquaman with some paper on his face, Cyborg, and Wonder Woman. Of course, we know there's more figures yet. A lot of different product information that's just off to the side over here as I'm hitting my camera. Sorry about that. Essentially, it doesn't say anything. Yeah, actually it does. There is a write-up way over here. I'll read it in a second. But it says the specs on this. It says translucent windshield, rotating weaponry, rolling wheels with metal axles, not axle rows, pivoting front wheels, and pivoting bumper plates. So that's the bumper plates you see right there. So all of this jargon. It says, with more firepower and protection than ever before, this heavily armored all-terrain Batmobile features the latest Wayne technology. Its most recent upgrades, retractable multiple-barrel guns mounted on both sides of a rotating twin rocket launcher that lifts up out of the grill when needed. The armored plating is heavy-duty and is able to withstand even the most brutal attacks, while the high-performance engine allows it to reach up to speeds of 205 miles an hour. Whew! That's a decent write-up for the Batmobile. And there's a front window here that you can kind of see down into the top of it. Maybe you can kind of see that there. So there's a window panel right there. Very much like the boxes that the action figures come in, just much, much larger. This thing is massive. It says it's 1/12 scale, because the figures are 1/12. Now, from other reviews that I've watched, the RC car is probably a little bit larger and makes the figures look out of scale. I think this is actually probably closer to the correct scale of the figures, which I'm trying to reach Batman off frame here. So here is Batman. So you could just see the size. Again, the camera angles down a little bit, so Batman appears to be a little bit bigger than the car, but trust me, he is not. We'll try to get perspective just right. So I'm going to get this guy out of package the best I can, and we will get a closer look at the Mattel Justice League Multiverse Batmobile and compare him to the other Batmobile, which, if I only just would have waited. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Okay, here is the massive massive can't describe. The closest thing to this, to kind of put it in perspective, if you have the Batman animated seals, DC Collectibles, Batmobile, that gives you a frame of reference to the size of this car. I have to get completely back away from the table. I'm not even sure how I'm going to be able to film this review with having to get back so far away from my table. I can just barely touch the car and get it to rotate, I think. No, it's hitting in the back. There we go. The wonderful way to shoot a video without having to get back. But what a cool car. It's almost hitting the back of the table there. So very, very impressive car. As you kind of see, one of the flaps here doesn't go down as far. It's more of the bumper here. It goes up just fine, but I think mine, there's a little hinge back in here, but doesn't want to flip totally down. So lately I've just been kind of folding mine up a little bit. Well, it doesn't even want to work there, so may have to give a little bit of extra love to get that to kind of go flat. I could pull it all the way up here, but I think it looks a little more menacing having it down. So I'll have to work on that. I've seen where both of them go all the way down. I think this just happens to be the luck of mine. Now, there's still a lot of working and moving features on this car. This is the cheaper version. This is the $60 version from Amazon. I have seen at Best Buy, of all places, which I'm hearing that Best Buy is going to be acquiring the toys from Toys R Us in a buyout. So I was kind of told that on Black Friday. We'll see if that holds true. But I have seen the RC car remote control version of this vehicle. It's a tad bit bigger to accommodate all of the working features. Otherwise, it's essentially the exact same car, just with, the RC remote control features with the smoke, and then the turning machine guns here, and then the cannon up top, I think, does move left or right when you shoot it, and then the wheels obviously turn into headlights and the smoke and all that. So another reason why I got this one, it was just due to money. At the end of the day, this is really just going to set on my shelf, and I may do, some photo shoots with it outside and different things. But for $240, which now on Amazon you can get the RC car for about $155 running right now during Black Friday, if you're watching this and I get it uploaded in time. Still, if it was around $100, I might have done it. But after watching a handful of reviews and listening to people say that the car is kind of hard to drive and navigate because it's working on Wi-Fi with your phone, once you get the car up to a decent speed and it gets far away from you, it's hard to control the car and you lose connection. The app crashes, you got to restart all over again. And I'm like, the smoke and the sounds and all that stuff really seems cool, but how much am I really going to use those features? That's quite a bit of money to spend when all I really want is the car, to put a Batman inside of it, throw some parademons on top of it, and take some pictures, or just have a really cool looking car on the shelf. So I wish it had some light up features, that maybe the headlights, and there would have been an off-on switch to light up. If I was real, ambitious, I probably could rig some type of lighting system, put some LED lights somewhere on the car. Am I going to? Probably not. Somebody smarter and wiser than me could probably figure out how to do that. But the car is still so cool. The wheels are plastic on front and back. So it has that, hollow Mattel plastic wheel sound. And that's fine. Yes, the rubber wheels would have looked cool, and it would have given a little bit more weight to the car. Excuse me. But at the same time, again, for most of us, we're going to be just having this set on our shelf, and it's going to look cool. Yes, there's no hydraulics to make the car kind of go up and down into battle mode. But again, like I've been saying, I just wanted the car to look cool. So that's where the exhaust would have come out had I had the that version of the car. But still, this is a beast of a car. And for $60, I really didn't think it was that bad. I would have thought this would have been $100 on its own. So you can see, I'll give you some better shots of the cockpit inside, and it's detailed well enough for the type of vehicle that it is. There would have been an onboard camera in the RC version, which I hear that if you have the canopy down, you really can't see out to see where you're driving if you're getting into first-person mode. So that could be something. You did see me move the turrets. The turrets do move left or right. These do not rotate. They do turn left or right, so if you want to do that. The bullets that kind of go in, you can pull them out there, and you can kind of feed them back into the car. You can kind of pull them out to kind of give a little bit more depth to kind of what you're doing there. The top cannon does turn up a little bit and points down a little bit, not too much, or you'd be shooting your car. Does look left to the right, does have some pivot in there as well, and I think I hit the camera just a little bit, so I apologize. Again, it's really hard to reach around to get to the table just because the car is so massive. Now, this does fit most 6-inch action figures. So I don't have a whole horde of action figures up here, but I do have a few, and I will be taking you through some of those. So let me grab a couple figures, and we'll kind of put them in so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. All right, going handheld here, so hopefully this doesn't turn into an episode of Drunk Monkey filming. So you can see all of the different Batmen that I have here. There's the Multiverse standard Batman, and we've got the tech suit Batman over there that are essentially designed for this car, and they both work very, very well. We have the Suicide Squad Batman here. We have the 2003 Batman that was the predecessor to the DC Universe Classics, which I have a DC Universe Classics kind of a hybrid figure here that I kind of cannibalized. And then we have the DC Collectibles figures, the Rebirth figure most recent, and then the New 52 version. Speaking of New 52, there is Tim Drake Red Robin in the Batmobile. So as you can see, he does sit in there, but he can also really kind of slide down into the car too. So he sits in there well enough I could get a hand up here, and I could get his hands on the steering wheel pretty decent if they have decent shoulders. But as far as him just being able to sit in there, and obviously the canopy does close with him inside of it. So this is where I'm going to knock all of these Batman off. So far I only lost one. And then I have this Batman, which is a standard $9.99 Batman from Mattel, which is essentially made for the other Justice League Batmobile, which I have. And then the Total Heroes Batman. So a lot of these will fit in here. All of these guys will. You can get the Suicide Squad Batman kinda sorta to fit in there, but because of his hard plastic cape, you really have to kind of crinkle it and get him in, but then it wants to open up in the canopy and it kind of pops him out. I can try and do a couple of those for you. Of course, this guy's going to sit in here. This guy will not fit in. A DC Universe Classics with a cape will not set in whatsoever. This cape is just too thick and too big. So if some of you people out there cut these capes off and do cloth capes, then yes, you could get this Batman to fit in here. The Rebirth Batman also sits in this car very nicely because it has a nice, soft, pliable cape. I have not tried this Batman, the New 52 Batman in it. I think he probably could because the cape's about the same. So I am going to try, but if you look, we have a New 52 figure in here, so as long as the legs cooperate and the cape cooperates, I would assume Batman could sit in his own car. So what I'm going to do is try a few of these. The ones with cloth capes aren't going to be really much of a challenge at all, so I'll run through a couple of them, and we'll see on the other side. So as you can see, here is the Justice League Multiverse Batman. I didn't get his hand up on the steering wheel, but it does fit there. And I don't believe it's connected to the steering. No, it is not. So steering wheel does move, but in the RC car, that moves a little bit. Yeah, it does. So there, I'm knocking everybody off the table. So yes, it does move a little bit. There's a gear shift, which my finger's probably going to get in the way. Right here. My finger on it. It's just underneath. I'll have to wait to show you. But the throttle that you see right there, that does move. So let's see if I can move it. There we go. So if you remember the position it was, yeah, I made a liar of myself because I can't see it. There we go. No. There it is. I was feeling the wrong thing. There, now you can see that the gear has shifted down. Alright, so I'll show you a couple more Batman here really quick. Alright, there's the $9.99 version of that same Batman I just had in there. He is rather small. He's a little bit smaller for the cockpit. Now he does sit in here and go into the cockpit a lot easier. I don't have to tuck as much of his cape around because it's more of a softer cloth cape rather than the vinyl cape that was on that Batman, which I am going to change the cape on that Batman. But he does sit in here rather well. So let me try another Batman. So there's the 2003 Batman. So this is kind of the 6-inch Batman that started it all. Now he does have his own 6-inch Batmobile, so there was no part of me that was even questioning whether this Batman would be able to ride in the Batmobile. Again, if I think I maneuvered them just a little bit more, I could get hold of most of them to hold on to the steering wheel. But I'm just trying to show you, like, will these figures fit in? And more importantly, sometimes, does the canopy close? Yes, the canopy does close. So you just have to kind of position him just a little bit more seated in the back. Just make sure he's underneath that roll-down bar. But yeah, he fits in here really nice. I won't go through all of them. I'm going to try this Justice League New 52 Batman. I know the Rebirth one does fit because I have seen other reviews. So if this guy fits, I know 100% he will. But again, I've seen in other reviews this one does fit in the car. Okay, close. I'm going to get this one out because this is one of my nicer Batmans, the Chromes. You can see where the cape is getting buckled up. I think I probably could have got him to set in, but the cape is starting to hit down in the lower part of the cockpit right here, so it's starting to bunch back up. So let me pull him. Again, I apologize, one-handed. So you kind of have to treat him like a burrito and get it to wrap. Again, I'm trying to do this one-handed. And wrap the cape around him to get him to fit in. So I think he could. I don't know. That's going to be really rough. Now I'm going to try this on camera here, one-handed, and I knocked the leg off that Batman, which is fine. It does pop back on 1 minute. Okay, I'm getting that guy to try and fit in the car. The legs kept popping off, which they fit back in very easy, but I'm not one that wants to keep popping the leg off and on, and his hip sockets don't move up far enough to be able to really get in a nice seated position as he got the legs back on here. So, however, somebody had got him in here, must have had to do a little bit of manipulation to try and get him in. So I would probably say you could, but if that's the Batman you were really wanting to get in this Batmobile, I would kind of say pass. So, the last Batman that I haven't got in the car, which is going to be this Mattel version right here. Squeeze him in. I think he's going to fit in. Again, I apologize about the camera here. I got his... So you see, he's going to fit down in, even with his grapnel. So that guy fits in here rather pretty easy as well too. Again, I'd move the arm out of the way just so you could see. So there were some of them. The Suicide Squad Batman, he probably could again. It's with the whole cape. I'm trying to tuck him in. I think he would fit in there again. If you have a cloth cape version of this guy, I think he'll fit in a lot easier than without. It's essentially the same body buck as the new Multiverse. It's just sculpted a little bit better. So those are the figures essentially in all the sizes you can get. DC Collectibles can kind of sort of work, depends on who the figure is, but again, this is made more for Mattel figures, and some of them are kind of hit and miss too. But that's why it says fits most 6-inch action figures. And these two guys over here, essentially what the car is made for. So these two guys do fit in. And one figure, somebody may say, hey Rob, I have a Mafex Batman. Is he going to fit in the car? Yes, he can. Now I didn't get his tape all tucked in, but with that nice metal wired cape, you can really manipulate the cape a lot better to get it to tuck in underneath him a lot more. So he fit in here really, really well. So the Mattel figures just fit in here, like the tactical suit Batman. He fits in here no problem, but it's a little tight. The Mafex figure actually fits in here probably the best out of all of them that I've tried so far. So if you have the Mafex BVS figure, and I think they're going to be doing a Justice League figure, this is actually a really good figure to have in the Batmobile, so something to think about. So yes, the Mafex figure does fit in here, no problem whatsoever. One of the other unique things that I've kind of seen on the car is this little peg right here. So that is a peg for an action figure to be able to stand on. Now nobody directly stood on this part of the car, so I got a Parademon here. Again, I'm doing this offhand. So I pegged the Parademon down in here. I mean, you could put Aquaman up on top and have him ride there, even though he was technically riding over there. I think that would have been a cool spot to have a peg on the car, is down here on the floorboard. So I think if I tried, I could probably position Aquaman's leg to rest here and to get him to straddle up here somehow. So a peg would have been really cool here. The only thing that I really had to connect after putting it together were these two like missile things. There's one here and one here. These are in the back of the box, and they just slipped right in. So everything else was already put together. No other assembly required at all. The guns and the turret and everything were on here. So I had made mention that I do have the $19 version of this very same car. Somebody could say, well, I bet they're just about the same. You could say that, but you'd be wrong. Let's take a look. So here we are. Here are the two cars side by side, so you can see that the Multiverse just dwarfs the $19 version. You can kind of see in proportion, like, okay, this is for the kiddos here, and all these different crazy features, which a lot of them are the same here. Of course, the overly large cannon that does shoot out little rockets. Now I got which the video hasn't been uploaded yet, but my Cyborg with the helmet came with the wrong mother box, or maybe it was Batman. So I had two male pieces instead of two female, or a male and a female, whatever. I couldn't collect and connect the mother boxes together because I had the wrong halves for the two boxes. So Mattel sent me a voucher, and I thought, well, that'll be a good way to get another figure or something. I thought, oh, you know what, I'll just get the Batmobile and just be done with it. And then by the time I bought it, I realized that this guy was out. Wah, wah, wah. So I probably could have bought another action figure instead of this Batmobile right here. So somebody's going to ask, what are you going to do now that you have this one? I think my nephews are going to get a hold of this one, and then the Batman that goes with this one, the $9.99 line, I'm going to take it over to my parents and say when the nieces and nephews come up, they have a Batmobile to play with. So that's what Uncle Rob is going to do. Aw. Because Uncle Rob ain't giving this one up anytime soon. Personally, I think we're all going to die. What a great funny scene in the movie. So like I said, if there was a peg right here, that would have been a great place to get Aquaman to stand on, and would have worked really well. Now, I do have some action figure stands that I've thought about potentially taking an old action figure stand and taking the peg off of it and maybe kind of gluing it there. That'd be just kind of silly maybe to do to get him to stand, but that's where I would have put the peg, on either side of the running boards of the car, just to put some figures in different spots, especially with the Parademons that were on top of the car during the movie. You could have recreated that. The peg on top of the car is fine. That's probably where they decided to put the peg. They probably saw the scene and said, hey, let's do that. And they thought, this is going to be easier. It's going to, oh, there we go. Front part. So to do something like that, which, I mean, yeah, still serves its purpose and still essentially works the same way, but we know he was actually closer to this side of the car. All right, final thoughts on this Batmobile. Do I think it is worth the price tag? Yes, I do. $60 is not that bad at all for the Multiverse Batmobile. If you're like, man, I really wanted the RC version. At the end of the day, like I was saying earlier, how much of that are you really going to use? And from what I've seen, yeah, it's got some cool features. But I think as far as display purposes, you're going to get a lot of mileage out of this version of the Batmobile than you would otherwise. The wheels roll very well. Even though they're the hard plastic, they're very fluid and moving. Again, I don't have a lot of space here to be able to roll this thing around for you to really be able to see, you know, how fluid the wheels move. But again, just spinning it there, you can kind of see how the wheels go. Again, works with a lot of your 6-inch action figures. And if you're going to do something like this and just pose a figure with it, then essentially you could use any single Batman figure that you want. So that's going to wrap it up for this look at Mattel's Multiverse Batman. How about the Batman versus Superman? It's essentially that car. The Justice League Batmobile. What a great piece to add into my Multiverse collection. And if nothing else, just as a Batman fan, it's kind of cool to have a Batmobile that actually can hold some Batman and Robin figures. And as always, this is Rob for Rob's Rogue, signing off saying we will see you guys next time.